All right, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about CRM systems, and with me is Kate Guillen. She is founder of Simplicity Ops. Welcome, Kate. Tell us a little bit about how you got started with Simplicity Ops and some of the services you guys provide.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So I've been working in the investment management industry for like 10 years in an admin and ops capacity. I started at a BD and moved over to an RIA where I was introduced to a CRM that we were using as, like a glorified Rolodex, if you will. And during that time, we were going through a really big transition and we needed systems and processes to help eliminate the fire drills that we were experiencing. And in the little research that I did, I figured out that our CRM could be a heck of a lot more than a Rolodex if someone took the time to build it out. And so I was a person to learn how to use it to manage our tasks and our calendar and our sales pipeline and our client experience. And in going through the process, I realized how much I liked it. And I thought, man, this could be a really cool business idea. What if I was able to take what I've learned and build out CRMs for other advisors that, need some help really, optimizing that tool. And so that's where the idea of Simplicity Ops came to be. We partner with RIAs and do exactly that. We build out, a true operational hub in your CRM to help you kind of cut down on all the external places that you're currently going to manage your practice in an effort to just be more efficient, better serve your clients, and be out doing what you're best at, and that's building your business. So yeah, that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. And are there specific CRMs you guys work with, or do you?
Yeah, good question. We work with Redtail and Wealthbox. Those are kind of the two industry leaders, and those are really our area of expertise.
Awesome, cool. I know for a lot of advisors I talk to, those are the two main ones that they usually work with. All right, so now you've graciously put together, I think, a really cool presentation to kind of guide the conversation today. So we're gonna start off with what you call the 4 steps, and they're really sequential, right? You see this as like really building a house. So what is kind of the first step you see in building your house when it comes to CRM systems?
Yeah, you got it. It's so funny. So, an advisor's number one priority is serving their clients, right? I read something a little bit ago from a Kittis article that said the number one reason why clients leave advisors is because they don't hear from advisors. And so we want to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen and have a system, a centralized place for managing these relationships. And so, like you said, we do it in these 4 phases. And I put together this presentation as a resource for everybody. You're welcome, Jeff, to give it to anybody who wants a copy of it. To help them, really build out their true operational hub in their CRM. And I spell it out this way because, everybody loves the idea of workflows and automations, and, everybody wants to start there first, but it literally doesn't work unless we build the foundation and lay the framework first. So in order to build out a true operational hub, we're going to do it in this order. And I'm going to dive deeper into each one of these phases in just a second, but we start with organization, like, who are these contacts in your database and how should they be organized, right? Mm-hmm. Then we get into building out the hub, and that is how we utilize the CRM for managing contacts, tasks, your sales pipeline, your calendar, your client service experience. Like, how do we actually do that? And then we can get into the fun stuff, which is like service model and workflows. Like, who are these people that we serve? What do we want this to feel like? And then using workflows and automations to deliver those services at scale, right? Yeah. So, I liken this to building a house, right? I say the foundation is probably the lamest, most boring part of building a house, but like it lays the foundation to support the entire structure. And so the foundation is how contacts are organized. And so I've kind of written this in Redtail and Wealthbox lingo, but you'll follow me.
Yeah.
We want to build out like a contact hierarchy and think through who are these contacts in your database from like a reporting standpoint. At the highest level, how do we want to group contacts together? And so, just as well as I do, when you get into a CRM, the contacts are all the same, right? They're clients, they're deceased individuals, they're prospects, they're businesses, they're centers of influence, all right? Those are at the highest level of the hierarchy, the status or the type that we label contacts. And then we take it a step further and we categorize them or like further filter them down for reporting purposes. So let's say you hire me next week, you could say, hey, Kate, get me a list of all my top tier clients or my bottom tier clients or just my centers of influence who are attorneys, right? This allows you to target specific groups of contacts by kind of creating this structure. And one thing I wanted to mention at the end of this conversation, I'll give you a link
Yeah.
to our website, but there
Yeah.
is a form or like a document that we use to organize this, because the key to success here is mutual adoption of these systems by all of your team members. So anyone that uses your CRM, we need to make sure that they adhere to this like contact structure, so that we can find what we're looking for and be able to run accurate reports. So you can download our style guide from our website, which essentially is this same breakdown that acts as like a glossary to your database, right? So that everybody knows exactly how contacts are to be organized.
Right, because it's all about getting everybody to work together and have the same mutual understanding of what all of these words mean in this vocabulary. And if you've got different people entering data, if they don't have the same understanding of what that means, your data is not going to be clean, and then your reports are going to be clean, and the understanding of your business isn't going to be clean, right? So I think that's helpful, because the CRM systems will help you get a start, but you still need to do some of that on your own. And having like a style guide like you provide can give somebody a good head start if they've never done this before.
Exactly. And so you can use, like, if you literally have no structure, you could take our style guide and, adopt it verbatim. But I find that most people look at this and they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh no, we actually call our clients, platinum, gold, silver, bronze. Like it really doesn't matter as long as it's documented and that everybody uses it consistently. Because to your point, inconsistency produces inconsistent results and inconsistent reports. And so we just want to make sure that everybody is using the system the same way. So totally on the same page there. Once we know like how the database is going to be organized, and we know like how your current database should be mapped to this new really beautiful structure, we can get into educating the team on best practice for utilizing your CRM to manage everything that you see here. I find, and we kind of talked about this earlier, that some advisors just don't know all that the CRM is capable of doing. And so this is how we cut down on utilizing spreadsheets and Asana and emails and direct message and text messages and post-it notes and legal pads and all the available advisor tech to manage these things that your CRM is perfectly capable of managing. Okay, and so this is how we build out that true operational hub. So like if you think about a contact management system, not just how contacts are organized, but how do we build out a family tree or a professional network, or make sure that we're capturing all the pertinent information that we need to prepare custodial paperwork. Like all of that needs to live on a contact record in your CRM. We need to, in an effort to cut down on texting or emailing or DMing when there's a client service request, we should keep all action items in the CRM, utilize, activity templates to standardize communication, and really store all client service requests and the communication that we're having as a team around those requests in the CRM, so that I'm not having to go to my email or, you get what I'm getting at.
It sounds so obvious, but it's easy for things to slip out of it and get put in an Excel spreadsheet. I think I literally spent years of my career basically just going, hey, show me the Excel spreadsheets you use, and going, I think I can take that and put that in CRM. Is that okay? And it's amazing how far you can get once you do that, because if it's in a separate siloed spreadsheet, you can't have any reporting. Your data now can't be smart together. You can't run workflow. You can't run automation, at least not easily. But by getting the data there in the first place is going to give you opportunities down the road for your next steps that you're going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I come from an operations background. I've done a lot of compliance audits. You make my life a nightmare if I'm having to go to the CRM for this and your spreadsheet for this and your Outlook calendar for this. Like, we need to centralize all of this in a single place, so that, like we're talking about the calendar, so that you can build out a historical timeline of everything that has transpired in your clients' relationships, right? So you can see meetings and appointments and phone calls and action items. You get what I'm getting at. Same thing with your pipeline. I know a lot of advisors that track new revenue opportunities in an Excel spreadsheet. And just because they don't have a process in place for utilizing the available features within their CRM to track and manage that. And they're like, well, I want to be able to track new revenue from specific sources or specific COI referrals, or who brought in new business, or how much business have we closed this quarter. You can do all of that in your CRM. People just don't know. Yeah. And so that's what I'm hoping to share today, is that you literally can solve for all of this in your CRM if you take the time to learn how to use it.
Yeah, because even if you don't see it native out of the box, these systems all allow you to add custom fields, customization, and it might not be, obvious to you right away, but if especially somebody like you that's been doing it for a while, you can help answer those questions and how to, kind of put those pieces together.
Yeah, and we can get really creative with the available, out of the box features. And so this is
That's true
part of that
too.
solution.
Sometimes people just have to think about them in a way maybe that it wasn't originally intended, but is totally fine and supported to use of them in that way.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to get a little bit of creative because everybody's business is run a little bit differently. And we got to make it work for them. So
Yeah.
All right. So now we know like how the database is going to be organized. Now we know how to use the database. Now I want to talk about the fun stuff, and that is building out your service model and using the CRM as the vehicle for delivering these services proactively. Again, I come from a client service background, and proactive client servicing is very important to me for a couple of reasons. It keeps the reactionary stuff at bay. Clients know that they're going to be met with at whatever cadence, and they know that they're going to be hearing from us. So it's kind of like, don't call me, we'll call you type of thing. It also just sets very clear expectations and guidelines for the internal team managing these relationships. So where I kind of get started thinking about this is across the top here, like who are these people that you serve? And what are the services you provide? And what do you want this to feel like? Like what is the desired cadence or frequency at which you would like to deliver these services? And so we break it down by tiers. And I know you see like an AUM number here, but I go a little bit deeper into thinking through this in terms of like, there's an emotional component in these engagements too, or in these relationships too. I call them the 3 A's: AUM, advocacy, and attitude. So AUM is obvious, like how much money do you manage? Advocacy, they might only have 500 grand to their name, but they're a killer referral source. They give you great, new clients over and over again. So we want to take that into consideration when we're segmenting them so that they get the Ritz-Carlton white glove tier 1 service experience, even though they don't meet that like monetary threshold. Right?
Yeah.
And then attitude. Are they a pleasure to work with? That might dictate how often you want to meet with them, right?
Debbie Downer once a year, just bare minimum.
If it's that guy that called in, you're like, oh, not picking up the phone. We might, take that into consideration when we, develop his service offering. And so the reason that I like this is kind of just like the, boilerplate example here, but it really gets you thinking about like, how often are we meeting with people? Are we doing it in person? Are we doing it over Zoom? You can structure your calendar so that we only have so many appointments available in a day. How, in between those meetings, are we checking in with them? Are we acknowledging their birthday? Oops. Yeah. Are we acknowledging their birthday? Do we send like milestone birthday gifts? I don't know. This is just a really fun opportunity to customize the experience.
You can't really automate or make your practice more efficient until you define what some of these things are. Because in some cases, I think for some advisors, they might, you've got multiple tiers set up here. They might not even have one like really established with what they truly want to do, or they'll try to do it on what I call like an ad hoc basis. They'll just tell their assistant, oh, make sure we do this or make sure we do that. They try to remember everything in their head versus, one time sitting down, thinking it through, creating their service model, and then letting the system handle the details and getting it out of their head.
You nailed it. And that, I can't even tell you how important that is to like someone that's like in a client service role. Knowing what is expected of me, it just, I was talking about those fire drills that we were experiencing when I first started working with this firm. This solved that. Just the calm and consistency of like, okay, this is who we're meeting with when, and, putting into place, like in Redtail, we'll use keywords that explain the 12 months of the year that we meet with clients, or if you do meeting surges, whatever, that your surge schedule looks like. These are the months that we're meeting with clients based on their segment within our book of business. These people are going to be, the tier 1s are going to be in 2 keywords. And each month we're going to run the list of next month's keyword to see who we're supposed to meet with. And we can email them in bulk. We can send our scheduling link in bulk. Like it just creates a ton of, just consistency internally, and then the ease and convenience that it passes on to the client is just second to none. It just brings that level of calm and consistency and streamlines your processes exponentially.
Yeah. All right. So we got our CRM. Its base foundation is in place, right? We got our. We're all speaking the same language. And we know what we want to do. We know how we want to service them. Now we want to make it super efficient.
Workflows and automations are how you deliver those services at scale. And so this is everybody's favorite topic. It is mine too. It's a bright, shiny object. Like, what is a workflow? Well, in our world, anything that is repeatable is workflowable. In an effort not to reinvent the wheel every single time we go to do something, we're going to document that standard operating procedure in a workflow format and house it in our CRM. Okay? And so what I mean by that is, let's just start at the top. Like, a very repeatable process is bringing on a new client. Okay, and let's just say this looks like your new client onboarding process. We have an introductory or like a qualifying phone call. If they're a good fit, we have them in for a discovery meeting. Then we go through the financial planning process, and then paperwork gets put together. There's all the back end stuff that needs to happen. And now that they're a full-fledged client, we're going to have a new client welcome meeting and show them their portal and show them their statement and talk them through how often we're going to meet with them and the players on our team. Okay, you get that, right? That is a very repeatable process. In an effort to not have to reinvent it every single time we meet a new prospect, we need to standardize this, okay? And so you think through, like, what do you want this to feel like? What is it? What happens first? What happens second? What happens third? What does that timeline look like? What kind of documentation are we putting together? Are we sending an agenda? What does our follow-up look like? But this is how you make sure that I's are dotted, T's are crossed. It's standardized across all, advisors or client service people in your organization, and really, really brings you just a massive level of efficiency, because we are no longer having to remember the last person we onboarded, what did that look like? It's just a giant waste of time. This totally, completely solves that. So if I can make a recommendation to anybody, when you're thinking through what should be a workflow, literally look at your team's workload. Like, I know all of our clients are a little bit different, but the work we do for them is very much the same. We open new accounts, we change bennies, we change addresses. Like, those are all perfect examples of repeatable things that we do that we should standardize, in the hopes that you can, the next person that you hire, you can plug right in. They can follow this process. They can follow this process as well and execute it as well as you do, because we've literally put in, links to documents and agendas. We have, just standardized the communication and the email templates that we use. Like, we're not trying to create robots here, but we're just trying to bring a massive amount of efficiency and not having to reinvent the process every single time we go to do this.
Yeah, and I think it's, even though you get some time efficiency by having a lot of these steps done, I think one of the more rewarding things is just the mental capacity you give yourself back, right? You don't have to think quite as hard on all these things. The system has done it for you. And then you can you can really focus on your client and less on the pieces, parts, and tasks. Yeah.
That's the point. That's literally why we do what we do, is to save you the time and the brain space that, reinventing these processes is taking up. And, not to mention, that is a huge component, but also, like, as a team member that is responsible for, like, executing these requests or executing this process, I like to know what's expected of me. And by having a workflow to follow, I know very clearly when, how I'm supposed to do things. And I'm not left wondering, like, am I doing a good job? Am I doing this right? What should I be doing next? It solves that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And so workflows extend beyond just client onboarding. There's other very repeatable things that we do. Here's a couple of examples, but, and I'll tell you, because you brought up a good point. Having the framework or having the checklist in place allows you it kind of takes the thought out of it, right? Some of the stuff you could probably do in your sleep. You could probably do it with your eyes closed. You move money all day long. But in my experience, and I believe that, like, excellent customer service is closing the loop when you've done what you said you were going to do. Even if it's a move money transaction, the workflow could be make sure there's cash available, place the trades, when it settles, issue it, follow up and close the loop with the client and let them know that the trade has been placed, money will settle this day, they can expect the money in their Bank of America account by whenever. Like, that little nugget goes so far with clients and is often forgotten if you don't have a checklist or a workflow to follow. I'm guilty of that. And so I love that the workflow has in it, that final step to close the loop with the email template that I can copy and paste into my email, fire it off, and I'm not left nobody's left wondering where we're at in the process. I hate getting beat to the punch when a client calls in and says, hey, I talked to you on Monday, where's my money? Yeah. I like keeping them in the loop on things like that. And one of the questions that I get here a lot is like, well, what's just like an activity or a task and what's a workflow? And it's interesting because we're really big fans of templating things. And, whether it's a note template for a post-meeting action item, or it's an activity template for all the repeatable things that we do, I like, especially in Redtail, activity templates to kind of set the activity template is the call to action. I need you to change a Benny. Okay, the advisor says, hey, Jeff, I need you to change the Benny. Okay, and they put in the details about the Benny change. But when you receive that activity template, it automatically, this is the automation we're talking about, fires off the Benny change workflow, which tells you how to execute the request. The activity is the call to action. The workflow says, step 1, you prepare the paperwork. Step 2, you send it out. You make sure you get it back. You save it to the server. You submit it to the custodian. You make sure that the custodian did what they said they were going to do, and we close the loop with the client. Like, it's a chronological order or like checklist that needs to be followed to do that request to our firm's standard. That is the workflow.
And then all of those individual steps, those are your tasks.
Yep.
Yeah.
That live within the workflow. It's the workflow is kicked off with the initial call to action. I need you to change the Benny. But the activity template doesn't follow that like chronological timeline that I just iterated. That is the workflow.
Yeah, I also think by documenting it like this too, when people have policy changes, they're like, hey, we should do this with our clients, or we should do that. No one can remember all of the different ideas or policy changes that you make. So by putting them into the system again, as people are going through, then they'll hit it every time versus trying to remember that great idea you had, 2 months ago or whatever. Yeah.
We just by nature, like we have so many balls in the air. We're all wearing so many hats. All of our clients are different, but they all kind of blend in the same because what we're doing for them is similar. It's hard to keep track of everything. And if you don't document your processes like this,
yeah,
I just feel like my brain is just mush.
Yeah.
And so I want to point out here, I said earlier that anything that is repeatable is workflowable, and that extends beyond just client service requests. There's a lot of repeatable things that we do that are more operational in nature. Bringing on a new employee, your end of the year RMD process. You have client events or seminars or whatever, like in an effort to not reinvent the wheel every single time you go to do this, or have to remember the last person you onboarded with ease,
especially for items that don't happen as frequently, like a new hire, right? You might do that every other year, maybe, and then it's hard to remember.
Get them set up with all of our systems and into the custodial platform, and there's just that checklist is so lengthy, and if you forget something, the first day that person comes in is just like it's a fire drill. It's just herky-jerky, and there's no system in place. And so I would recommend that anybody that's looking to kind of start this process really look at what is your team working on, what is repeatable, and know that the best time to write a workflow is when you're in the thick of it. So you should create a list. You could take my list here of all the workflows that I recommend that you create, but the next time you hire somebody, bullet that thing out. Bullet it out, manipulate it so it's in a flow that makes sense with step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and then build it out in your CRM after you have whiteboarded or written your process out first.
It's sometimes when we're busy doing the task or item or whatever, we just want to get it over with, right? But what you're saying is, hey, take a few extra moments to make sure you document it, write it down, and put it in the system. And that at that time may be the last thing you want to do, but it's probably the key time to do it because you're in it, your mind's fresh, all of the details, and that's your best time to document it, actually.
I'll tell you, and you nailed it. The joke that I always make here, I get this question a lot when someone's like, oh, I just don't have the time to document it. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. You just a couple of extra minutes that it takes to document is going to save yourself so much time in the long run. Just do it. And I was very reluctant when I was first introduced to this. I'm like, I'm already wearing 10 hats. I've already got so many balls in the air. I do not have time to document this, but when you have to go back and try to reinvent the process to rewrite it, it's a waste of time. Just take the extra couple minutes and document it. You are going to be so much better off in the long run. Yeah.
All right, Kate, I have 2 more items for you, but I want to make sure, did you have another slide you needed to get through?
Nope, I was going to recap. You're
okay,
good.
Why don't you recap, and I got 2 questions for you.
Okay, so I think we made it pretty clear, but I've tried to do this in reverse. I've tried to appease clients because they're really gung-ho on workflows and automations. And if I can tell you anything, it doesn't work. You cannot put the roof on the house until the foundation and the frame is built. And so you literally have to start with figuring out how your database is going to be organized. You have to get everybody on board with utilizing it to manage all of the things that I showed you there, your tasks, your calendar, your sales pipeline. You got to think through your service model to know what kind of workflows that you need. And automation is that last little piece there that configures what I was talking about, like the activity template to the workflow. You literally need to do it in this order. I can promise you that it works, but I can definitely not promise you if it doesn't work when we work. So
Good.
learn from my mistakes. I want to save you the heartache that I went through trying to figure this out. And this is the framework to build out that operational hub.
I love it. I think everyone's going to find a lot of value in this. Okay, 2 closing questions. I did not ask you this ahead of time, so I am kind of putting you on the spot. What is your favorite, even though you said it comes last, what is your favorite automation that you've put together for an advisor?
Okay, I'm going to go and get into the weeds, okay?
Okay, I love it. Let's do it. Let's get nerdy.
I've been dreaming about this for a very long time. So when I was first introduced to a CRM, Calendly was the online calendar tool that we all used. It was not industry specific. It was just a general online calendar. And it did. It saved me like tens of hours a week in manual back and forth scheduling. Having said that, when you schedule in Calendly, it flows through via a middleman being Outlook to the Redtail calendar. Then you have to do all this manual stuff to make it do what you want it to do. Well, there is a new player on the block who has solved this and created a ton of efficiency. G reminders, big G, big R reminders, built specifically for our industry, integrates directly with Redtail and Wealthbox. So literally, you schedule an introductory call in G reminders. It flows through directly to your Redtail calendar. It links the contact or creates a new one. It links the advisor, and it automatically fires off the corresponding workflow.
In a compliant fashion.
Yes, it is. It is like I've dreamt of the day for years, and it is here, and it is the greatest time saver efficiency pickup that I could ever recommend. And so that makes, obviously, it gets me very excited.
Okay, I feel embarrassed. I just found out about them, I would say, in the later half of this year. But yeah, you're right. They while it seems like you could use a general tool, having like a industry specific tool is really helpful. Just how you described. All right, cool. Last question. If somebody looks at this and they're getting started and they're like, you know what? I think I actually just want somebody to help. What is the best way for someone to reach out to Simplicity Ops and engage for you with some help?
Our website, simplicityoperations.com. You can schedule a call with me, and we'll take a deep dive into this and talk about your goals and help set expectations and talk about whether or not my team and I are going to be a good fit to be able to help you build this out. We also have, like I was talking about that style guide, a bunch of free resources available on our website that you can download and use to help guide this process. You can also just email my team here if you have any specific questions. And one thing that's not on here that I want to highlight is we have a free community of RIA owners and operators that I want to show you is a really awesome place to keep in touch with us. So if you go, I'm going to pull it up here for you. Can you see my school platform here?
No, I'm just seeing your questions.
Oh, dang it. You know what? I'll drop it to you, Jeff.
Yeah,
because
cool.
It's a really awesome place where we have all sorts of free resources and guides and things that we, in addition to other RIA owners and operators that can help answer questions. If you're hung up on best practice for doing what have you, it is a really great way to stay connected with us and get your problem solved. So I'll drop that to you, and then you are welcome to share this slideshow with anybody who wants some additional help.
Cool. Kate, thank you so much.
You are very welcome. That was very fun. Thanks so much for having me.